You are about to listen to another episode of That Sports Guys podcast, hosted by Craig Forrestall. Find Craig on Twitter at that_sports_guy. The That Sports Guys podcast is proudly featured by NFL Draft Diamonds, your draft coverage king. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some football talk.
Hello and welcome to another episode of That Sports Guys podcast. I am Craig Forrestall. You may know me from Twitter as at that_sports_guy. But today it is all about Montana State offensive lineman Lewis Kidd. Lewis, what's going on with you, man?
How's it going?
Pretty good. Not too bad on my end. Just wanted to see what it was like for you growing up in a place that's known as Minnesota. What was it like growing up in Minneapolis, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. You know, I've been out here in Bozeman for, 4.5-ish years. So I haven't really spent a whole lot of time back home. I go home for the breaks that we get, usually for a couple of weeks here and there. But yeah, Minneapolis is, truly my home. I've loved it there ever since I was a kid. Some people like to, they go to college and like, oh, I'm not going back. I'm not going back to my hometown, whatever it is. I want to get out of there. But I just want to go back for sure. All my family is there. I just was recently engaged. Actually, my fiance goes to school out there. Her family's there. So I think it's a super great place. Overall, you get all the seasons, and then you add the fact that I've got, virtually all my family down there, out there. It's awesome.
And now I want to move to the athletic side. When you were in high school at Totino Grace, you defeated an Eden Prairie high school team that had a 40-game winning streak coming into that game before you beat them. Can you relive that game for us in that moment?
Yeah, I mean, that was, one of my favorite memories looking back in high school for sure. Being the school, we were a much smaller school. We were playing up 2 conference levels than what normally our school size would have classified us as a 4A school. We were playing in 6A that year. And it was kind of a brewing thing. The year before, as a junior, we played them in the state championship at TCF Stadium, actually. And we lost that game by 1 point. And I remember that was like, super devastating loss, obviously, to lose it in the state championship, get all that way. But to lose by 1 point was just so tough. And they were such a great team. And, you really want to just come out and kind of shock everyone. And that was kind of a tough way to end the year. And then the next year we opened up with them. We had a really weird kind of opening game. There was a lightning delay for like 2 hours. It was weird. I mean, they ended up beating us for sure, but it was just kind of a weird, game. And then we came out, we met them in the playoffs, and, we kind of took care of business. And we kind of knew from the jump that it was like, it's time, it's time to kind of end this streak. It's time we were kind of the team that was going to be able to do it the way we looked at it. And I mean, it was awesome. That game, I had so much energy, everybody was making plays. There's, so many critical things that happened that did. And I just remember, everybody storming the field. I remember people reaching out to me who were from Eden Prairie that were like, yeah, glad you guys won. Like they needed to get their, they needed to get their butts kicked. They needed to get checked. So it was cool. It was cool because I felt like we really had the whole state or, a huge portion of the state behind us. And I remember going into that game, all the polls, all the coaches, whatever, didn't even give us a chance. And beating them was, awesome. So that was really great.
And then sticking there, you also played basketball in high school. What kind of player were you? And then did hoops have your heart before football?
I was, growing up, I love basketball and football, still do to this day. Any chance I get to get in the gym and shoot around or play pickup, whatever it is, I do it. I take that chance every time. It's a little bit more tough with the weight I've put on since high school and, all that stuff and moving around a little bit more. But yeah, I would say basketball has always been a huge part of my life. I was never really, I wasn't super great at basketball. It wasn't necessarily my bread and butter. But I still loved it. I still loved that, I could transition some of those skills from basketball into football. The footwork aspect, hand-eye coordination, all that stuff. And I just really loved playing it and being with my friends on the team. I was kind of like a role player, kind of like six man. We had another big guy who was like 6'10". He ended up playing briefly at Washington State for a little bit. So I mean, just coming in, I was kind of the bruiser. It wasn't super uncommon for me to foul out, and I was totally cool with that. I score a few points here and there, get rebounds, all that good stuff. So I kind of accepted my role, and that was about the time when football kind of started taking off for me. So it was kind of like, this is how it's played out, and I'm totally cool with that.
So I think you and me might have been similar basketball players in high school, because my coach gave me the number 55, and it meant that I had 5 minutes or 5 fouls, whichever happened first.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wore 55 for a little bit there, so I can totally understand that. Yeah, no, I was, honestly, I think it was kind of more fun than, being the starter, having to have all that pressure on you, because you literally just come in and, you get rebounds, you can just literally throw your body at, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I had a lot of fun with it, and I kind of just accepted that. And then, every once in a while, surprise someone, you get a nice layup or, a nice mid range, and kind of the gym's kind of looking around like, who the heck is this dude? But yeah.
And now I want to move ahead to the football recruiting process for you. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, that was it's kind of a stressful process, and it's getting more and more, I think, becoming, social media, when things are progressing, technology wise and stuff like that. It's really cool to see what schools are doing to recruit, what kids are doing for themselves. Like I've seen a lot of kids like marketing themselves, and that's something I never really thought about or did. I had social media, all that stuff, but it was never like, I wasn't actively reaching out to coaches. I wasn't getting my information out there. It's cool to see that that's changed and that's progressing. But my recruiting process was pretty laid back. Honestly, I, got to meet a lot of great coaches. My first offer was from the University of South Dakota, and they wanted me to come play O-line. And I wasn't necessarily sold, just because, it was South Dakota, and I kind of wanted to do the distance thing. From the jump, I kind of wanted to get away from home a little bit. But I was, obviously super grateful for that. I think my next offer was from actually the school across the hill, University of Montana. That was great. They had a coach over there. His name was Coach Greg Rack, and he was who I connected with right away, right from the jump. He's a defensive coordinator, super great guy. That's who offered me. He would come to my high school and like have lunch with me, stuff like that. Just a great guy. And then I was also, NDSU showed some interest. Northern Iowa showed some interest. Never got offers. South Dakota State, did all those camps. Being from the Midwest, you kind of just hit all those big FCS schools. And then I got an offer from University of New Mexico. And that was actually different, because it was actually to play defensive end. And that was kind of what I really liked playing at the time. So I was really kind of into that for sure. And then I took an official visit to UConn. They did not offer me, but I went out there, and that was really cool. They also wanted me for defensive end. And then the coach from the University of Montana actually left Montana and came here to Montana State, and I kind of didn't know where my offer stood, whatever. And a couple weeks later, he messages me and is like, I want you to come to Montana State with me. And I had never been to Montana State. It was my first official visit was to the Grizz, to Montana. And that was my first time being out in Montana. So then I went and took a visit to Montana State, went on a Friday, came back on a Sunday, and committed Sunday night. I loved it here. I knew the coaching staff was great just from that one weekend. I knew it was a program that was going to be on the rise. And so I pulled the trigger, and I was happy. The other reason being they told me I could play defensive end. So I came in as a defensive end, and obviously now playing O-line. But that was a huge thing for me, and I'm super glad I made the decision to come here.
And let's stick there, because on your online recruiting profile, it listed you as a defensive end. Your freshman year bio link, it lists you as a defensive lineman at 256 pounds. But also in there, Coach Jeff Choate did mention about you on that same exact freshman team page that you could develop into, quote, an NFL prototype offensive lineman down the road. Lewis, talk about your body transformation since arriving to campus. And then also, if you could talk about the decision to move over to the offensive line.
Yeah, that was, it sounds like it's so long ago now that I'm talking about it. But, no, so I came in as a freshman playing D end and playing on the D line, and I was about like 250, like you said, like 255, 260. Felt like I was at a pretty decent weight. And they came in and they let me play D line for my freshman year, and I had a lot of fun, learned a lot of things. We had some injuries that year, so I was able to travel to the first game, suit up for a couple games. It was an awesome experience. And then I ended up redshirting. And it's kind of funny that like the whole year, my first college season, I'm there at practice every day. The O-line's over there, the offensive coaches are over there, and they're like, "Oh, we'll see you soon, Lou. You'll be over at offense soon enough." And I was just always in denial, whatever. All these guys are just talking crap, whatever. It's all good. And then spring season rolls around and they sit me down. They're like, "Yeah, we're going to transition you to offensive line." And I was totally cool with it. The kind of the way I was developing and just my size and stuff. We had a strong D line and a strong O line as well. But when I looked at it, I said, I'm going to do anything I can to help this team win. That's what I told the coaches. I said, I don't care. Like, if you need me to play kicker, I've never kicked in my life, but if you need me, whatever it is, I'm going to do it. It's whatever I can do to help and get on the field. So that's what I told them. That my first spring here, I was at O-line playing, I don't know if I started at tackle or guard. I bounced around a lot throughout my years here. So, but I came and I was super, super not good, and kind of developed and learned a lot of stuff, learned a lot of good things from a lot of good guys and great coaches. And it took a little bit, but I started getting the hang of it. I started really enjoying it and kind of, really loving the position of O-line. It was a little bit frustrating for sure at first because I felt so far behind, the guys that have been playing their whole life and hadn't played, like, like those guys have been O-linemen, and I was didn't really feel like I knew what I was doing. But it took a while, and I started, getting my nose in the playbook, understanding concepts a little bit more, schemes, footwork, like where your hands are placed, all that stuff. And I started getting into it and started to develop a little bit. So, and I think being playing defense at first was kind of helpful because I got to gain some perspective, got to see some coaching styles, how D-line are coached, like what their job is, what they're supposed to be doing. And I kind of use that, and I can, kind of tell what a D lineman is potentially going to do on certain situations, or what play style this specific D lineman likes, whatever it is. So I kind of like that I was able to see both sides of that. And, obviously playing football, like if, you can develop some skills, they can really transition to a lot of different positions. So it wasn't a super huge, crazy transition for me, but, changed and never looked back. And obviously still joke around about, if they need me to play nose guard or DN, I'd love to jump in, but, I think that ship's kind of sailed, and I've settled in pretty well at O-line.
And then, Lewis, I want to go back to something you touched upon a couple of minutes ago, and that is, in what ways would you say your basketball background has benefited your development as an O-lineman? If you could just go back to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say just, the biggest thing is the footwork part. Just staying in front of a guy, keeping yourself, ball me man, all that leverage is like, you're keeping when you're playing defense, outside of the post, even inside the post, your footwork's so important, and keeping yourself between the defender and the basket. And it's kind of just like, O-line. I remember we had a Coach Tafulele, who coached O-line for a couple of years here. And I remember during one-on-ones, he just constantly say basketball, 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 because, you're sitting out there at tackle, taking a pass set, and it's like guarding someone trying to drive to the rim. You're trying to stay in front of them. But now you can obviously strike the dude and, kind of kick the shit out of him if you need to. So that's the big difference there. But for sure, the footwork, and then hand-eye coordination, obviously. And, I'm going to go out there and just say it's cool that, like, there's a lot of guys on our team, and I'm going to probably, across the nation, every football team, a lot of good basketball players that play football that, like, they can jump in the gym and start running pickup games. And it's like, this kid probably could have played Division I basketball if he wanted to. So it's cool to be able to kind of go in there and see if you can hang with those guys. And obviously, you got the receivers and all those guys who are just jumping out of the gym and stuff. But just trying to be able to hang with them is a lot of fun. And I think, yeah, again, the biggest thing for sure transitioning was the footwork.
And then, Lewis, you've started the last 33 straight games, earning all Big Sky honors. And then you were also named a preseason All-American before what would have been this fall football season. And like you mentioned, you've spent time going back and forth between guard and tackle. Could you just talk about the type of player that you are?
Yeah. I think I've developed kind of, come a long way since I first started taking reps, kind of taking snaps. I think my aggression has grown and has built up. It's kind of something that I was never in high school. I wasn't always like the most aggressive guy. I just was out there having fun. Guys would tell me, get aggressive. And I would just kind of be like, that's not really how I play this right now. And moving into college, it's like, you gotta have a mean streak, and you kind of gotta flip the switch when you get onto the field. So developing that's been huge. I'd say I really kind of hone into, the scheme of what we're running, certain aspects, whatever it is, if, you're certain types of down blocks, the way we pull, whatever it is, and really trying to practice that and doing it exactly how they want us to do. And then obviously being able to adapt and change in the game is the biggest, I think, a huge portion of my game. And then kind of the versatility thing. Like, I've played every single position on the field except for center on the O-line. So I played left, I've played right, center, guard, or sorry, not center, guard, tackle. And at first, I really did not like it coming over from D-line and transitioning and learning the position. It was really tough, and I would struggle mentally, and, I'd be messing up things quite a bit. But I think in the long run, it helped me a lot, because I can see the perspective of the guard, I can see the perspective of the tackle, and I can, read the defense from both positions. I can see, how someone might play one spot or the other. And I think that versatility has just helped me out a bunch in playing O-line for sure.
And now, Lewis, what would you say are the goals for the next time you and the Montana State team take the field?
Yeah, I mean, we go over our goals all the time, and we're coming off a pretty successful season, I'd say. But this team that we have hasn't done anything. We say that every year. You can't really ride off of your last year's team because it's a completely different team. So we've got our own goals. We want to come out. We want to be successful at home. We want to be successful away. We think this is our year to get a Big Sky championship. We want to make it to the playoffs. We want to make a deep playoff run, and obviously that ultimate goal is to make it to Frisco, and that's something that last year we were so close to, and this year that we really want to accomplish and kind of get over that hump. So yeah, I'd say that's for sure one of our biggest goals. And then obviously taking care of business in our rivalry game for sure, like we typically do. So
Now, Lewis, let's stick there with goals, but then what are your personal goals for your upcoming season?
my personal goals is just to help this team however I can. Obviously, I'm in it for the team aspect of it. Whatever personal achievements come out of that, it's just kind of like icing on the cake. But at the end of the day, it's to help my team win, to help my team succeed, to teach. I'd say like especially teaching the younger guys coming along because after whatever season I'm done. I'm out. I'm leaving, and I want to leave this program better than I found it. That's something our coaches preach a lot. And I want to leave it into the hands of these guys, and I want them to know that they can be successful, and that just because you're losing seniors doesn't mean you're gonna have a bad season or whatever it is, and they're going to be able to step up and help the team the next year or whatever it is. So I'd say, yeah, that's for sure. The biggest thing is kind of help teach, help the young guys come along, and just help the team win.
When you think about your football future, what are your hopes and goals, Lewis?
My goal is to play football as long as I can. I know it's a sport that super physically taxing. It's tough. Injuries are just an inherent risk you take every time you step on the field, no matter what it is. Luckily, knock on wood, and thanking God, I've been pretty healthy throughout my playing career, from being a youngster up to now. And I just think that I want to play as long as I can, as long as my body will allow me. And I really want to make it to the next level. I really want to go on and continue to play and play professionally. I think that'd be the ultimate goal. That's kind of always something that I've wanted from even a super young age. I can remember, being in class and, they ask you, what do you want to do? And you grow up and you say, I want to play in the NFL. And, kids kind of laugh and the teachers snicker and stuff like that. And it's kind of like whatever, because, that's how it is as a kid. But I think, as I've grown up, it's starting to become more and more of a reality that, I could potentially have a shot to really, really accomplish this goal that I've had for almost my entire life. And I think that's a pretty great opportunity to have.
Now, Lewis, we've spent a good amount of time getting to know you as a football player, but if you will, I have a couple of questions to take us away from football and get to know you as a person. You ready to jump down that rabbit hole?
For sure.
All right. What is the most memorable or interesting college class that you took?
Ooh. So I actually just graduated this past fall with a degree in education, health enhancement, exactly. So my most interesting class, I guess, not really a class, was actually my student teaching portion. Being able to go into the school and like be able to teach, and especially so I did that this past semester, and especially with all the uncertainty going around, like I didn't know if I was going to have to teach virtually. I didn't know if I was going to have to not teach at all or whatever it is. But I was able to get in there. I taught at an elementary school for about 6-7 weeks. And then I taught at the brand new high school here in Bozeman for 4 weeks. And I just had a blast. It was so much fun. I was able to teach, help kids learn, all that stuff. I worked virtually. I worked in person. And it was something super great that kind of solidified my choice and made me realize that this is something after football that I wanted to do, because, football doesn't last forever. And that's the biggest thing that my parents have always told me, and, coaches, all that stuff. I've seen it. You have these guys who go and play college ball and they get some, kind of whack major, where they just kind of get a degree and it's not really anything that you can do with, like something you can use in the future. And that was my biggest thing coming in, is like, I want a degree that I'm going to be able to use after football, that I'll have something to fall back on if need be. So I'm through that, I was able to kind of solidify that choice that I made. And it was just an awesome opportunity.
What is a unique or little known fact about you?
Ooh, unique or little known fact. I'd say unique fact. I've got a size 17 foot. It's like it's the biggest on our team. I know that. I haven't met too many people with bigger feet than I have. It's unique, but it really sucks. It's really tough to find shoes, cleats, all that stuff, but that's something I usually throw out.
Would you rather live as a normal person in the world today or be king of a large country 2,500 years ago?
I think I've had these types of conversations with my friends and stuff, and say, oh, would you rather live in the past or, live in the future? And it's like, I think I'm staying and just, living a normal life, because there's just so many things like now, like, especially in like today's day and age, where it's like, I can't imagine not sleeping on a bed or like having like a toilet and stuff. Just that like some regular stuff where it's like, I don't think I could give that stuff up, and I don't think I'd want to, even if I am a king. Like, obviously you're gonna have more things than a normal person, but I feel like a normal person now has a lot of good stuff like a king might have, long time ago. So I'm gonna stay a normal person.
What's the best restaurant near campus?
Best restaurant near campus. That's the other awesome thing about Bozeman, is there's a lot of great spots to eat. But if I'm gonna go best spot around campus, I'm going there today. It's called The Roost. Fried chicken, super great, super delicious, not super expensive. It's not very big at all, but I'd say that's for sure the best spot around campus, and it's like, a few blocks away, so that's also crucial.
And now, Lewis, final question I have for you. What's the most courageous thing you have ever done?
Most courageous thing I've ever done, I would kind of attribute it to my mom. A few years ago, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was like in July. It was like right before the season started. And I just remember like being so lost, like, should I go home? Should I not play this season? Like, should I go home, help take care of my mom? Luckily, like I mentioned earlier, I have a lot of support back home, a lot of family, my siblings and stuff who were able to kind of help. But I think playing through that season, that was the year where I wasn't really a starter, and I think it was my redshirt freshman year it had to have been. And I started the last, I think it was 5 games, something like that. And I was just kind of I remember sticking it out. And I was like, I wasn't playing very much. I was kind of playing on special teams. And then I started starting, and I was like, oh, I'm really glad I stuck this out. And I kind of attribute it to my mom, because she was kind of the one that was like telling me to keep going. I was like, I'm going to get through this. It was awesome to see her courage. And through that, I kind of gave me courage to like continue to do what I love and continue to kind of, make her happy, make her proud, make my family proud. And, seeing her, going through chemo, going through, all that stuff. And she like still made it out to like games. She still came out to Bozeman. She was still there in the stands when it was cold. Like, that was kind of like, how can I not do this? How can I not be courageous and get through this when she's got all this courage and she's battling through it? So I'd say for sure that's probably one of the biggest moments for sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Montana State offensive lineman Lewis Kidd. Pay attention to him and the Montana State team as they get ready to take the field for the upcoming season. Like he said, they are on a mission, and Lewis specifically is not only playing for Montana State, but for his NFL future. Once again, that's Lewis Kidd. I am Craig Forrestall. Until next time, stay safe and be easy.
Hey everybody, Craig Forrestall. Thanks for tuning in and listening to another episode of That Sports Guys podcast. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at @that_sports_guy to catch all the latest updates and podcast episodes. Until next time, stay safe and be easy.